Yeah, welcome to the second part of the time management methodology training, where we want to take a look at how to set priorities the right way. Well, time management comprises four major phases. For the first one is the identification phase, which is handled in another course, so in the first part of the course series. The identification mainly means that you have to get a more or less complete list of all the tasks that you have to do. So you have to identify the right tasks to do and find a way to systematically collect them in a way that it's possible to proceed with further time management methods, and to get into the second phase that we will deal with in this course here. So with the task of prioritization, so setting priorities for your tasks in the right way so that you can distinguish the more important tasks from the less relevant ones, and that you can reorder your task list by relevance. The third phase is the scheduling phase. So the task that comprises the setting of time slots for each of the tasks that you're going to do. So you find a specific date and time and a specific appointment in your daily, weekly or monthly or whatsoever schedule where you plan to fulfill the task. And the fourth phase is while you're fulfilling the tasks, you have to monitor them using a proper task management that we want to take a look at in a further course. Next to these four phases, it's as well important to know which tools you should use to support those phases of time management and to overcome procrastination, so to get more motivated, right? So these topics are dealt in further courses of this course series for methodology training for time management. So let's dive into the main part of this course, so how to set priorities in the right way. Well, before we directly dive into getting to know several methods of how to prioritize your task, we need an overview of what we're going to take a look at now. So the major goal that we are focusing on is we want to know what to do next. So what we need is a certain order for fulfilling the tasks, for working on our task, on our to-do list in the most efficient way, so that we reach our goal, our major goal, the most efficient way, and that we can as well maybe sort out the more relevant from the less relevant tasks, so that we can completely sort out or maybe eliminate the less relevant tasks here. So for this latter concept, for this latter idea, we'll take a look at the first concept, the Eisenhower method, which primary goal is to identify those tasks that you can freely eliminate, those tasks that you can delegate to someone else, and then find an order for more important and less important tasks that you directly and for yourself have to fulfill. So the second concept of the Pareto principle is used to use your time in a more efficient way, meaning that you can reach more in less time for maybe if you have multiple projects at the same time, and there you have to schedule your time in the proper way so that none of your projects really get behind. So that's something we're going to take a look at in the second concept of the Pareto principle. And the third one is the ABC analysis, which is a form of application of the Pareto principle by simply categorizing your tasks in ABC categories based on the contribution to the major goal of your project. So we're going to take a look at this in this part here now. So let's start with the Eisenhower method. meaning to sort tasks by importance and urgency. So these two factors here, or dimensions. So this method is named after this former US President Eisenhower, but it's not known for sure that he really used this method. So it's not necessarily used by him. But anyway, it's nice to know, or nice to remember this method by his name. So it's for us called the Eisenhower method. The goal is to filter your peak tasks. So the very, very most important and relevant tasks that you have to really focus and concentrate on. And on the other hand, on the other side, those tasks that are the opposite. So really unimportant, really not very urgent. And those tasks, there you can feel free to eliminate them entirely. And this Eisenhower method helps to schedule your tasks because you get a certain order of your tasks based on these two dimensions, importance and urgency, and you can identify those tasks that are probably able, where you are probably able to delegate them to someone else. Well, the important thing, 2 questions that you have to ask each and every time a task gets into your way. Or gets into your inbox. You have to ask yourself, is this task important? First. And the second is this task urgent? And therefore it's important to know, not just to evaluate it by the importance for someone else, for your boss for example, or the urgency for someone else, but for you personally, because it's a method that you apply for yourself. So you have to evaluate if this task is important for you, and if this task is urgent to you, is the urgency high for you. Therefore we have this matrix. The Eisenhower method's often as well called Eisenhower matrix, because you have these 2 dimensions of importance and urgency, and there you can fill in all those tasks in one of the 4 areas here in this matrix. So you have those tasks that are in the upper right corner there, so they are very important and very urgent to you. So you see that the deadline is near, you want to do this, and the results matter for you, or matter to you. On the other hand, you have those tasks in the lower left corner that are really not important, and the deadline is as well almost not there. Only a few of those, only a few tasks are really falling into this part that are at the same time important and urgent, or at the same time not important and not urgent at all, right? But anyway, there are as well, most of the time, tasks where you would say, well, they are very important, but the deadline is not so near. These are often those goals for referring to your life goals. So things that you consider as very important and very relevant for you, but they are not that urgent because there's no letter coming in that's saying, okay, you have to pay some money until date X, and otherwise you have to whatsoever. Well, most of the time, important tasks are not urgent and fall into this upper left category here. On the other hand, a lot of the tasks coming in are really not so important, but seem to be pretty urgent. Often those are tasks that you get from your boss very often, because he says, okay, you have to do something until date X. But the fulfillment of those tasks is for you personally not pretty urgent, right? So this is one of the major take-home messages here of this course. You have to know that important tasks are rarely urgent, and urgent tasks are rarely important. So you have to really think about where you place your task into this matrix, in which area. But if you're fine with it and identified for each and every task that gets into your inbox the right part of the matrix, so the evaluation for importance and urgency, you can decide what to do next with those tasks. And this decision of taking a look at what to do next with the task is done after all the tasks are distributed among this matrix, right? So first of all, we take a look at the lower left corner. So all those tasks where you decided they are not important and they have time, so there is no urgency. So this part of the matrix comprises tasks where you could say, okay, they're not worth doing it, so you could eliminate all those tasks into of this category. Secondly, all of those tasks in the lower right corner that are not important but urgent, should be in any way possible delegated. So you shouldn't do them by yourself. But of course, as there's a deadline and they seem to be pretty urgent, you can give that task to someone else, because as it's not that important, maybe the quality of this of the result is as well not that important to you in this way. So you can hand it over to someone where you would think that the task has a better home, or what to say here. Well, more importantly, we have to take a look at the upper parts. So the upper right part and the upper left part. These two fractions of this matrix are those tasks, or are the categories of those tasks that you will do yourself because they are important, right? And those tasks that are important and urgent are those that you're going to do yourself and now. So as fast as possible. So these are those tasks that you'll do now in the first place, that you'll focus on directly. Secondly, there are tasks that are important but have time. Well, those tasks should be, if there's a way possible, automated. So if there's a way to automate this process, well then you can care about the important things, but maybe they have time. So you might have time as well to find a way to automate the fulfillment of certain tasks. Or you should find a clear appointment where you want to do these tasks or these tasks by yourself. So you have to plan them for future fulfillment of the task, because beware that tasks that are important but are not urgent at the moment may become urgent in a later time. But as you know the task is there, you can care about it as early as possible, and find, if possible, as I've mentioned, the way to automate the process. Next off is to take a look at the Pareto principle. Well, the Pareto principle is named after Wilfredo Pareto, who proposed this effect, or who discovered this effect. And this effect is as well called the Pareto effect, or the 80-20 rule. Maybe you've heard about it. So the principle is that the Pareto distribution describes a phenomenon where you would say that only 20% of the effort you are putting, or the resources you are putting in to achieve a certain goal, a certain result, are required or responsible for 80% of the actual result. And the full rest of the 80% of the effort and resources that you put into the fulfillment of the work are only responsible for the missing 20% of the result. So for the better quality. And this is a phenomenon that you often see in different areas, in all those areas, in different forms in life. So I will show you a few examples later on one of the later slides. But the important thing here is that you can identify among the list of all the tasks you have to fulfill to get a certain result. For example, to finish a project or whatsoever. If you take a look at all those tasks, you can identify more or less 20% of the tasks, considering each task really has more or less the same effort in terms of resources like time or something like that, then you could say that 20% of all the tasks that you have there are responsible for 80% of the result. The problem is that you don't know in the first place which of these tasks really form that 20%. So you have to identify these 20% of the tasks, and then you can concentrate on exactly these 20% of the tasks to get at least those 80% of the results. And then you can decide if you spend more time and effort and resources in these other 80% of the tasks to get the rest of this 20% of the result, or if you're satisfied with the 80%. And can then carry on and concentrate on other things. So basically that it means as well that you can concentrate on 20% of the tasks by yourself. So you really have to focus on these 20% of the tasks, and maybe the rest of these 80% of the tasks can be delegated to someone else to achieve the missing 20% of the results quality. But bear in mind that for getting 100% of your result, of the anticipated result, you have to, of course, invest 100% of your resources, so of the effort. It's just a distribution phenomenon. Well, and that's the big difficult deal here. The difficult thing is to identify these 20% of the effort that you have to put in to achieve the 80% of the result. And there's the question if it's okay for you to dismiss the rest or the missing 20% of the result for a better or more efficient way of working here. So if you say, okay, I don't need those 20% of the result, then you can of course say, okay, if you are able to identify those 80% of the effort clearly so that you can dismiss, then you're fine. Well, the Pareto principle is something, is a phenomenon that you can observe in so many ways in the real world. So often you see that there is an unequal wealth distribution, and that's basically as well that 20% of the population generally for the world owns 80% of the wealth. Or if you're using tools to get something done, then in most cases, so in 80% of the cases, you only use 20% of the tools. So, for example, take a look at your phone, of your smartphone. Most of the time, for 80% of the tasks that you're doing, probably, I would say that you only use 20% of the apps installed on your phone. Or the same might be true for your computer. So, as well, 80% of the traffic accidents are caused by 20% of the drivers. So only a minor fraction of all the drivers on the road are really responsible for the vast majority of unwanted things, of the accidents that are caused here. Or specifically for the business world, with a focus on business things that we are dealing with here as well, you see that, for example, generally 80% of the success is achieved by 20% of the effort, meaning as well that, for example, 80% of the work is done by only 20% of the team members here, or 80% of the sales are generated by only 20% of your customers, or 20% of your products, or by 20% of your distributors, or something like this. 80% of the absenteeism is caused by 20% of the workforce. Well, it's really a phenomenon that more or less is true for almost every area in life. The ABC method, or the ABC analysis, is a method to apply the Pareto principle in a more or less practical way to really identify, or to cope with the challenge of identifying the 20% of the effort that you have to put in to get 80% of the result, right? So the ABC analysis is proposed and used by the former General Electric manager Ford Dickey in 1951. So his idea was that we want to sort tasks by the contribution value, meaning that we have to analyze the costs and the benefits of all those tasks that we have here, and evaluate them based on these A, B, and C categories that I show you on the next slide, to get more efficient when fulfilling tasks. So our goal is to reduce complexity of large quantities of tasks in order to focus on relevant processes. Basically, this ABC analysis cannot only be applied to a task analysis here, but as well can be applied to evaluate projects, products, services, your employees, the value of teams, etc. You always evaluate all those entities into this group, so your task or your team members or whatsoever, and evaluate them by the value that they contribute to the team or to the project results or whatsoever, or the sales. Basically, the ABC analysis means a reduction in complexity through efficiency classification. So we decide if a task or something is very, very, very efficient, so a high result on less effort. If it's medium efficient or less efficient, so meaning that there's high effort and low result. So the classification means ABC, that those A classified tasks have a high value, B classified tasks have a medium value, and C classified tasks have a low value. Basically, you have to identify the A and the C classes, because everything else gets into the B class. Everything that's left over here is in the B class. Well, the ideal distribution of this ABC analysis means that, based on the Pareto principle, 20% of your tasks are part of the A category, so have a high value, meaning that 20% of your tasks should be in the A class or in the A category, and we should see that the fulfillment of these 20% of the tasks will deliver 80% of the total value or of the result of the project. Then the B and C distribution means that the C class comprises half of all the tasks, and they deliver only a minor fraction of the entire result. So half of all the tasks deliver only or are responsible for only 5% of the total value of the project. And the remaining 30% of the tasks should deliver as well, not that a major part, but anyway, 15% of our total value. So how do we get there? We take, for example, all the tasks that are identified in the first phase of our time management. So we identified all the tasks that are into our project or are refer to the fulfillment of a specific goal. So for example, a project, and we take a look at all those tasks. If the effort, for example, the time consumption that you would say for each of these tasks is more or less the same, then you decide how many tasks should be those 20%. So you take the amount of 20% of all those tasks, and then you try to order all those tasks in a way that where you would say that the topmost tasks are the most important to focus on during this project. When you have them there, you count the 20% of all those tasks and say, okay, these 20% of the tasks are my A-class tasks. And then you can observe this later on when fulfilling these tasks. If you would say that the fulfillment of only these tasks would give you 80% of the total value, so of the results. And you continue by selecting as well the rest of the 30% of the tasks, or 50% of the tasks, to identify those B class classified and C classified tasks here. Let's get into a summary. So we got to know 3 methods or 3 concepts that can be applied for setting priorities in the right way. So to reorder your list of tasks to move on into your time management in a more efficient way, so that you can distinguish the most relevant from the less relevant tasks. So first of all, the Eisenhower method is really practical and really easy to use, because it's just the sorting of, or the categorization of all those tasks in 2 dimensions. So you decide whether a task that's coming in is important or not, and you evaluate the task regarding its urgency. So would you say that the fulfillment of this task is urgent or not? And based on this, you decide that you would eliminate all the less important and less urgent tasks in the first way. The urgent but less important tasks should be delegated to someone else. You always do the important tasks yourself, and you have to care about all of them, because you have to keep in mind that those tasks that are important but not urgent at the moment might be urgent in the future. So you have to take care of them very early, as you know that they are there. But of course, all those important urgent tasks are the ones that you will focus on now, but you have to find ways to automate, for example, or to prepare for the fulfillment of the tasks that are as well important but not urgent at the moment. Keep in mind that only the fewest tasks are important and urgent at the same time. So this group of urgent and important tasks should be pretty small. Now the Pareto principle, that's a phenomenon that you can find in almost any area of life. So where you find the distribution that 80% of the result of something is only contributed by 20% of the effort you're putting in. So for example, the time effort or money effort or something like that. So only 20% of the effort you are putting in and 20% of the tasks you are doing to get a certain result are really responsible for the majority of 80% of the result. And maybe you can sacrifice the so the remaining 20% of the result for getting more productive or for getting more efficient. Or those other 20% could be achieved by someone else, so you can delegate these other 80% of the tasks here. The crucial part is to identify those 20% of the effort and of course the rest of the 80% of the effort that you could sacrifice maybe, and you have to decide if it's okay for you to sacrifice these remaining 20% of the result, of course. And the ABC analysis can help you with this here by classifying all your tasks in 3 categories, so in A, B, and C efficiency-based categories, where you would say those A classified tasks make up only the 20% of all the tasks there, where you would assume that these 20% of the most important tasks of your project will lead to 80% of the whole result, of the total value of the result of your project. 30% of your tasks are responsible for only 15% of your total value, and the majority of 50% of all the tasks are only responsible for the minor of 5% of the total value. So this distribution is something that you can find based on the Pareto principle, that you can find in many different areas in life. And if you apply this carefully onto your project, then you might master your project in a more efficient way, because then you know on which part of the project and which tasks and which part of the effort you have to focus on, you have to concentrate on, and put all your concentration on to get out the most of your projects and tasks here. Well, in the next course, we'll take a look at the way to schedule and monitor your tasks. So this is something that we combine in the later courses, because a right way to schedule tasks and find time slots to fulfill your tasks is crucial and directly linked to a proper task management tool that you would apply, or a method or a procedure that you'd apply here for a good task management, for a good monitoring and scheduling of your tasks. So thank you for that here. Welcome to the third part of the time management methodology training, with the topic of easy time management techniques. First of all, time management comprises 4 main phases. So the first phase is to identify the tasks that you have to fulfill in your day or during your day or within a project or so. So the process of systematically identifying and collecting tasks is something that's the first part of any time management and is dealt with in the first part of this course series. The second phase is the task of reordering your tasks by relevance, so that you are able to distinguish the most important and relevant tasks from the less important, and maybe those tasks that could be eliminated as they are not that necessary to fulfill. Well, in this course now, so the prioritization is as well part of as well subject of a former course, so the second part of this course series, but this course now deals with scheduling and monitoring. So meaning in the scheduling phase, it's your task to find the ideal time slot where you could plan, or where you plan to fulfill a certain task that you identified and ordered in your list. And the second part is that during your fulfillment of the tasks, you need to monitor your status, which tasks you already fulfilled, that which are done and which you're doing and stuff, and therefore you should apply proper task management techniques or systems. Side topics of time management are the task to keep up the motivation, or otherwise to overcome procrastination, so to not unnecessarily postpone tasks, and to choose the right tooling for support regarding these 4 phases here. Those are part of other courses. So this course will concentrate on the scheduling, finding perfect time slots, and the monitoring, so applying a proper task management system. Well, time management does not only mean to identify the task that you're planning to do, and it's not only meant to bring those tasks in the right order so that you can see which tasks you listed are most relevant to you, but it's as well strongly related to time, actually, so that you have to decide what time of your life will you spend for fulfilling those tasks that you listed. So this requires a smart technique, a smart strategy to schedule your day or even your week. And that's part of this section here. First of all, we have to make clear that our goal is to ask for yourself, or to answer for yourself, the question of what you're gonna do today. And therefore, I propose the Alpen method in this part here. Alpen is the German word for the Alps, and it just gives you a hint for five phases or 5 aspects of planning your daily schedule wisely. And we'll refer to the perfect time when to do some tasks based on the biological rhythm that everybody of us have, and to plan all the tasks that we have and related to different roles that we have. So as the family guy, or as the businessman, or whatsoever, to plan those tasks wisely during the day. So first we're going to look at the Alpen method. Well, the Alpen method describes 5 steps or 5 aspects that you have to consider when it comes to planning your day. So planning tasks during your day, find a schedule here in a as smart as possible way. Therefore, we follow the following steps. So firstly, there's the phase A, where we take down or write down all the tasks, appointments, so all the activities that we think should be done today. Yeah, so you have your to-do list, or all the active projects open in front of you, and you select and you say, okay, I have to do this and this and that for today, and you select them in this first phase. Secondly, you have to estimate a specific length during your day in time, so the duration for each of those activities. Very important thing here when estimating the duration is to be as realistic as possible. So based on former experiences, for example, of similar tasks. And if you're uncertain how long you should plan to, that certain tasks should take time to fulfill, then be as generous as possible. So it's better to slightly overestimate than to underestimate the duration of each task. Thirdly, we have to plan our buffer time for the day, and we do so by ensuring that we only plan 60% of the available time for fulfilling tasks of the day. So you should make sure to only schedule your tasks within a 60% time slot of your day. The remaining 40% should refer to, at first, the unforeseen stuff, so everything that comes into your that interferes with your daily schedule with your plan during the day. For example, if your boss enters your office and have something very, very urgent for you, then you have to care about this, and your former plan for the day has to be sacrificed. But if we plan in advance that 20% of the time is available for the unforeseen stuff, then we are hopefully we are fine. The other 20% are reserved for real buffer time for the task that we plan to do, because even though we are trying to be as realistic as possible and as generous as possible, we will need more time than expected for fulfilling our tasks most of the time. So if we ensure to only schedule 60% of the available time in advance, then we are in most of the cases pretty fine doing all the things we planned during the day. Well, and that leads to ease, so to eliminate tasks, because we have to make decisions here. Most of the time, when we take all the tasks that we planned with the duration we estimated, we have more than 60% of the available time of the for the day to fulfill some tasks. So we have to do more stuff than time is available here, and there we have to sacrifice some tasks here. So we have to eliminate the less relevant stuff in favor of the more relevant stuff, of course. So you have to make decisions and eliminate tasks that you thought you have to do today. And the fifth step is something that you do in the evening or at the end of the day. If you're the time your schedule is over for the day, well then we need to follow up what we've done. So we have to take a look at our plan and see what's left maybe, so what we have to postpone to tomorrow, and as well have some new experiences in how long some tasks will take time for their fulfillment. So for further estimations of the duration for fulfilling tasks, then we have some new experience here maybe. So that's just a follow-up of the day and a plan for the next day. So a first attempt for a plan for the next day. Maybe you make this to be one single time slot that it takes today. So you have to start with a follow-up of the current day, and then you plan your next day based on this Alpen method again. So that's basically the Alpen method. So 5 steps here. Select the activities for the day, estimate the duration generously, make sure to plan only 60% of the available time of the day to ensure to have enough time for the unforeseen stuff and actual tasks that take longer than expected, eliminate tasks where you are sure that you are not going to do them, and make sure to as well follow up the day and postpone tasks that you didn't manage to fulfill for the next day. When it comes to planning tasks for the day, I just said to plan 60% of the available time of the day, but I didn't suggest anything in how to select which task you should do in the morning or in the afternoon before lunch, and that really refers to your own personal biological rhythm of performance. Basically, every human has some peak performance moments in a day, or peak performance intervals in the day. So one of them is the morning time. So around 8 a.m. most people have a performance peak. So during the time of 7 till 10 a.m., so around 8, there is a performance peak. And the second peak of the day is at 8 p.m. in the evening. So around this time, basically. Important as well is that following to the performance peaks, there are performance valleys. So this is basically the lunchtime or the after lunchtime, so around 2 p.m. and the night time. So around 2 a.m. there is the lowest performance level of the day available here. So it's not that ideal to plan to fulfill tasks during nighttime. But important to see here as well is that you should use your performance peaks in the morning or in the afternoon to do the most those tasks that need the most effort by you, for you or from you. And which of these two times you should prefer doing the most important task of your day refers to if you consider yourself being rather a lark or an owl. So larks are people who tend to get up very early but get to bed in the evening pretty early as well. Owls, on the other hand, are those people who rather like to sleep long in the morning, so to get up late and to get to bed late as well. Well, what's important here to see is that larks do have their performance peaks, their absolute total performance peaks of the day in the morning around 8 a.m. And the performance peak in the afternoon or the evening at 8 p.m. is not as strong as in the morning. On the other hand, for owls, it's the opposite, right? So they are likely to get up late, and their performance peak in the morning is as well not that of a performance peak. But their performance peak in the evening is even higher and even stronger. So their total performance peak of the day is in the afternoon or in the evening. So at around the evening time. Important to see is that you should never ever plan or schedule something really important at lunchtime or shortly after your lunchtime, and you never ever should try to work during nighttime. That's the important message here. And as well, nobody really is an absolute lark or an absolute owl considered these curves here. So you're most likely to be something in between here. But you know for yourself if you like rather to get up pretty early or you get up later. And I guess you already know that for yourself, your daily absolute performance peak is if it is rather in the morning or in the afternoon, right? So this is something that you should consider as well when planning your most important tasks in the day, during the day, and fill up the performance valleys rather with pretty shallow work here. So one suggestion to make a smarter daily planning is to plan only half days. So you separate your day into two halves, so the morning time and the afternoon. In this time, where most of the people are in their office, you should prefer the morning for doing the most relevant task of your day. Because there you have your performance peak inside, whereas in the afternoon you have the lunchtime, the early afternoon with the performance valley, and you rather have a performance peak in the evening after you got home. So if there's anything business related that you want to do in the office and that is the most relevant thing that you have to do in this day, then plan this to do in the morning. Secondly, separate your day in morning and afternoon as well to have a real separation of concerns in this to a certain matter. So plan what is your goal for the morning and plan what is your goal for the afternoon. Separate these two. So fill in the afternoon, for example, with rather shallow work, and the task where you have to concentrate more on that, where the effort is higher to fulfill the task, do this in the morning. And there apply as I've shown you, the Alpen method to plan the day. And there are 2 time spots where I would suggest to plan your day. That is, on one hand, if you want to do this rather in the morning, so this is the first thing when you come into your office, that you plan the day, select the task that you want to do, estimate the duration, schedule them for the day, etc. Or you do this in the afternoon or in the later afternoon, so before quitting the office. So take a look at the day, what you've done, what of the tasks are fulfilled, which are left and need to be postponed to tomorrow, and plan your tomorrow as well. So select the tasks, estimate duration, etc. for the next day. I would rather prefer the second one. So do this at the last couple of moments of your office day. And afterwards, don't plan the time after office time that much. So I suggested to just plan 60% of the available time of your day, and this includes as well to not plan the evening entirely. What I can suggest or recommend as well is that a lot of successful people write down what their successes of the day were. And therefore, I would say as well that it's a good idea to write success journals in the evening. So not as part of your business day, or not as a last action of the day into the office. Maybe that would be a good idea as well, but I would prefer to do this before getting to bed. Write down 3 to 5 things where you say, okay, that is really a successful part of the day, something that happened here the way I think, yeah, well, that's great. And that can be even something pretty small. So if you manage to talk to somebody and that talk and was just great, feels great, then this is something that went really successfully, and that's worth taking down as well into your success journal. So write down every day 3 to 5 things that you consider were successful during the day. Well, your daily schedule is not just about mornings, afternoons, just sets of tasks where you have to select several. Most of the time we have a specific role that we are in, or we are into a specific area of our life. So we are the employee, or we are the family guy, or if we have an own business, then we are the entrepreneur here. And for each of those roles, or for each of those life areas, we have several roles, and for each of those roles we should select at most one important task that we plan to do, that we plan to fulfill for the day. That is most of the time the smartest decision that you make, and that you make for this daily schedule. Yeah, that you're not just selecting 6 important tasks where you plan the duration and set a specific time where you are planning to do this, but just to select one very important particular task for each of the roles you are in for these days, or for each area of your life, where you say, okay, this is the one single task I want to fulfill today. And if you have multiple roles per life area, that's fine, then select one task for each of those roles. In any else case, then select just one important task for any area of life. So if you're in one half of the day the employee, then select one important task, one important thing that you want to fulfill, that you want to manage on this particular day in the office. And if you're at home and you have kids, for example, then you are the father or the mother, and then you select one specific task that you're doing in this role for the day. Where you say, okay, that's satisfying. That's a satisfying feeling if you manage to fulfill this particular task for the day. And that's important because most of the time our daily schedule, our plan is really full, and we very often see that we are not managing to do all the things we planned at the beginning, and that could be frustrating, and demotivating. But if you make sure that you're doing just one single thing for the day very good, then this is very satisfying. It's a good feeling, and something that you have to take down into a success journal if you're having one. So let's sum up what we learned in this section. First of all, the Alpen method, so referring to the German term for the Alps, just refers to 5 steps that you have to obey, or 5 rules that you have to obey when planning your day smartly. So first of all, you have to collect all the tasks, so the activities. Then you have to estimate the duration, so find out the length of each of those activities. Then you're planning buffer time over the day by ensuring not to just schedule 60% of the available time of the day. Then you eliminate all the tasks that you're not going to do today, and you have to control the day. So you have to need to have a follow-up session referring to the next day. Of course, the Alpen method can be combined with prioritization methods. So prior to applying the Alpen methods, so when it comes to deciding which of the activities you're planning to do for the day, you should of course know which of those tasks that are available are the most relevant ones that you have to concentrate and focus on. And secondly, we talked about daily scheduling techniques. So by considering your biological rhythms, so by using the performance peaks of the day, so it's important to plan your daily intervals for specific work areas or areas of life, of course, to consider your different roles in life and selecting just one single important task for each of those life areas or roles that you are in. It's as well helpful to keep up on a success journal, just to keep up your own motivation by taking down all those successful moments that you have during the day.